A video about the social care issues in the UK. Actually, not even that, in England, because it's devolved. It's like I'm going for a new record in low views. But that's what's in the news. Whoosh. The government has announced its plans to reform. You probably can't use that word reform anymore, can you? The government has announced its plans to rejig, to zhuzh up social care in England. This is about the people who need care due to disability or old age conditions. And it's not like in the old days. When the NHS was created in 1948, men retired at 65 and had the common decency to die of something, on average, when they were 66. But now, with your so-called medicines, people aren't dying of those easy-to-fix things. They're living with long-term conditions. We're talking Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and they need care for years, and that costs money that the state cannot afford. So they've launched a commission because this is urgent. As Health Secretary Wes Streeting put it,
we need to grasp the nettle of the big long-term reforms to social care that's needed.
And that commission will report its findings in, checks notes, 2028. That's getting on for Buck Rogers' era. I've had stuff delivered from Temu that's arrived quicker. And is it really grasping the nettle if it takes that long that the weed's probably dead? But as he points out, the cost of care is set to double in the next 20 years, so something needs to be done. But it's not the first time a government has announced it was fixing this issue. Back in 1997, Tony Blair said,
I don't want them brought up in a country where the only way pensioners can get long-term care is by selling their home.
Well, I hope you sent your kids abroad, because that's exactly what we have. If you want care, you might have to sell your house. This is a problem that will eventually solve itself, because it's only while the baby boomers are the ones in care homes that there's any equity worth raiding. By the time Gen Z are getting their butts wiped, they'll have nothing to sell off. They're not a generation that even keeps a drawer full of old phones that might have value. They trade in, the financial idiots. And then we get to Gordon Brown, who said,
I can say today that for those with the highest needs, we will now offer in their own homes free personal care.
That takes us to 2010, when there were cross-party plans to find a way for people to contribute more towards their long-term care that wouldn't ruin them. At the time, it was set to be about £20,000 that you'd contribute, and in modern money, that's about 2 weekly shops. It was presumed that, seeing as all parties worked on this, it wouldn't be something that would be used for party politics. So Labour announced the plans, and the Tories ran ads calling it Labour's death tax. A death tax. They're taxing your death. The only way not to pay this tax is to be immortal like Mum-Ra from the Thundercats. So, sure enough, Labour dropped the plans and still no solution was found. Then we skip forward like a bland person in a field of wheat to Theresa May, who said,
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. We are offering a long-term solution for the sustainability of social care for the future.
Do you remember that? At the time, if you were in residential care, the costs were taken from your estate and could potentially leave you with nothing. The plan was to make it so you'd always be left with at least £100,000. Seems fair? Well, Labour branded it a dementia tax. They're taxing your dementia. HMRC wants 25% of your brain plaque. So the plans were dropped. And that was Theresa May there saying nothing had changed after dropping the plans. That was a hard sell. We were going to do something, now we're not going to do it, but nothing's changed. It's simply continuing to not do the thing we said we would, but weren't going to do anyway. Maybe you're thinking, well, of course Labour were going to do that. Look what the Tories did to them before. Nah, it's a race to the bottom, isn't it? You're playing party politics, you're scoring points, but no one's fixing social care. Up next, we get to Boris Johnson.
We will create a new UK-wide 1.25% health and social care levy on earned income hypothecated in law.
I mean, it's not a clip where he goes on about Peppa Pig, so it's a good one. Rishi had a plan to raise some money to fund social care that would have been hypothecated, that fancy word that they use to mean just kept to one side to pay for a certain thing. It's better than the other phrase for that, which is ring fencing, which sounds like a sport at the Sex Olympics. But that plan was cancelled by Liz Truss. She was in charge for such a short space of time, but did so much damage. It's like when my toddler gets my unlocked phone for like 1 minute and manages to mess up all the settings, change the operating system language to Greek, and accidentally use my credit card to pay for all of those OnlyFans accounts. That's how that happened. So here we are. Every government says they'll do something. Every government finds a way not to do something. But launching a commission that doesn't report until just before another election means they'll be too scared to introduce anything. The opposition parties will call it a granny tax. They're coming for your grannies. They're like the Wayne Rooney of politics. And I've been through this. I suppose 1997, I was at university, and I would have been thinking, I don't care about social costs. I'm young. I have hair. By that 2010 clip, both my parents had Alzheimer's, so it became a worry. By the 2017 election, both of my parents were in full residential care, costing more than it cost me to live in my little flat. By the time Liz Truss ended those plans, my parents weren't around, so what did it matter? But at this rate, the one that the Labour Party are going at, I mean, I'm not getting any younger. My kids might inherit nothing because I've had to pay for my long-term care. But, I mean, my son does owe me quite a lot of money for that OnlyFans thing. I mean, it was a lot of money. And that's how that happened. This video is a bit Labour versus Tories, isn't it? Maybe there's some hope in what the Lib Dems are offering. Ed Davey had this to say.